Okay, now we're good, and the meeting is being recorded, and look at that. We jumped up from 29 people to 40 people, just while I was waiting to make sure that I was recording the meeting, so yay. All right, the other thing I wanted to do is make it so I can hear you guys. That was my other thing. Why my volume is so low. All right, we'll continue to work on that. As long as you guys can hear me okay, that's what's important. And Sean, maybe if somebody speaks before I figure out getting my volume turned up, you can put something in the chat or text me or, oh wait, here's my volume. Hopefully that will do the job.
We can hear you. I mean, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, I can hear y'all. You're just really quiet. So I was trying to turn my volume up so I can hear you better. But I also don't want to take too much time trying to do that. So I'm just going to try one more thing and then I'm just going to get started. I'll go a little speaker level.
I can hear you loud and clear, Samantha.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. I'm just not going to worry about it. There we go. Okay. Welcome. And I'm glad that y'all are here again for another CERT Forum. Now I'm hearing myself. And today is June 17th. And have the date on the slide there. So we are ready to get started. Is everybody muted so that we're not getting any kind of feedback or anything? I do want y'all to talk if you have questions. Please feel free to jump in.
Samantha?
Oh, yes.
Your slides disappeared.
Oh, how rude.
You're back. You're back.
Okay. I don't know why that happened. Lordy, I love computers. I love computers. I love computers. I keep telling myself, do. Okay. Here we go. So, CERT Forum. We've got just a few things that I wanted to share with you guys, and I looked at the questions that y'all had sent on the questionnaire about, concerns, questions that y'all have, and I have some of those we're going to talk about. And then if you guys come up with other questions, please speak up or jot them down and wait and see if they get answered. But I want to make sure that we talk about whatever is on your mind concerning CERT tonight, because that is the whole reason why we're here. So with no further ado, see, so this is just our agenda. I'm going to just talk about a few little updates and other ways you can get involved as a volunteer in North Carolina. And then we'll talk about some of your questions that I got on the questionnaire and any other questions that y'all have or anything that you want to talk about related to CERT, of course. And we'll talk about a few upcoming classes and events that are happening in the next few months as well. There we go. All right. So we are getting further along with our CERT responders, which are those folks who have completed CERT basic training. You are a member in good standing of a recognized CERT program. And if we had a large scale emergency or a disaster that was going on in the state, and the folks who live in the area that's affected may not necessarily be able to respond because they need to take care of themselves and their family and everything first. So let's just say if our coast was hit by a hurricane, I'm not going to ask the folks who live at the coast to respond because they're going to be busy. But I might ask people from the central and western parts of the state if they would be willing and able to go to the coast for a few days and help out maybe in a shelter or setting up a pod, a point of distribution. There's so many ways that we as CERT volunteers can help during and after a disaster, not like during, not in the height of the storm, but immediately after the disaster. We definitely want to keep you guys safe, of course. So we would not be sending you out there in the middle of it. So on the screen, you can see some of the tasks we may be asked to help out with. This is not a complete list because I'm sure there are things that we haven't even thought of yet. Like you see vaccine clinics is toward the bottom of the list there because we never thought of that before 2020, that we would be helping out with something like vaccine clinics. But it turns out, as we all know, there's a lot more to a vaccine clinic than just putting the needles in the arms. We have parking, we have traffic control, we have the registering people and all the data entry that goes along with that, as well as you all remember this, I'm sure most or all of you have had COVID vaccines, that they made you wait and sit for about 15 minutes after you had the vaccine to make sure there was no reaction and that you were feeling okay. So these are all things that CERT volunteers can fill all of those roles. So there may be something else out there that we haven't even thought of yet that could be a role for CERT volunteers in the future. Somebody talking? Wasn't sure if there was a question, sorry. All right, so to do other duties within the scope of CERT training. So the NC CERT responders, in order to be a CERT responder, as I said, you have to, well, here's how they would actually call out. So if you were the emergency manager of XYZ County, and you determine that you have a need for volunteers. Now, when you see SERT on the slides, that stands for the State Emergency Response Team. And that is what they call the North Carolina Emergency Management and all of our partners that, sorry, Sean, can you send the link for the meeting to Pete Bowler, please? If you have a second, I just got an email from him. The CERT SERT partners are all of the agencies and organizations across the state that we partner with during an emergency or a disaster. So in human services, we have things like the American Red Cross and Salvation Army and Department of Agriculture and Department of Health and Human Services. And there are so many that help us out there. In infrastructure, we have all of the cable companies and cell phone companies and Department of Transportation for the roads. And then in emergency services, we have state troopers, other law enforcement agencies, forestry service, the Office of the Emergency Medical Services, Office of the State Fire Marshal. All of these are what we call our partners. And that also would include our county emergency managers. And so whoever our CERT with an S, SERT partner is, they determine they have a need for volunteers. I've got something I have to get done and I don't have enough people to do it. And I need to get some folks in here to help me. So they could put a request in, and I see I have a typo there. I can fix that. They put a request in through WebEOC, which is the computer program. It's an online program that we use for every event, every incident, to track everything that goes on with that event. And that request would make its way to me and Sean, that somebody is looking for some help. They have to say exactly, what do I need people to do? When do I need them? Where do I need them to be? How many people do I need? What hours will they be working? We need all those kinds of details. And then we would send that notice out to you all or to the people who have met the criteria to be CERT responders. And then we help to coordinate getting people where they need to be to help out. And then I would go through the local CERT program managers. So if you are the program manager for your town CERT or your county CERT, I would make sure all of those requests come through you as well, so that you know who is volunteering to help, where they're going, what kind of job they'll be doing, and so forth, so that you are completely in the loop for all of that good stuff. So here are this is what I thought I was getting to this slide, but I confused myself. Here are the criteria to be a member of the statewide deployable team. You obviously must have had CERT basic training, be a member in good standing of a recognized CERT program. You have to have a current response team profile on terms. We've talked about this quite a bit. If some of you still aren't real familiar with how to create your response team profile, you can email us at cert@ncdps.gov. And Sean or I can send you the instructions of how to make sure that you have a profile and you want to keep that up to date. You even will upload a photo there for your badge. I think we now have a badge printer where we're actually going to be able to make these. And Sean and I are actually working on that tomorrow to make sure that we can. So you want to be sure your profile is up to date. You do have to be over the age of 18. That's I mean, shouldn't come as too much of a surprise. It's a liability and legal sort of issue. You will have to sign our code of conduct and the application. And there are links to those on our website. And also I will share copies of these slides, and these are links in here. So when you have a PDF of the slide, you'll be able to click on these to go to those forms as well. So another opportunity, I know we've talked about some, but just in case you haven't heard of the Radiological Volunteer Corps, Radiological Emergency Volunteer Corps, or REV-C. This is a group of individuals who are trained to respond to radiological and nuclear emergencies in North Carolina. About 77% of the population of North Carolina lives within 50 miles of a nuclear power plant. So there's a good chance that includes you if you're listening to this WebEx right now. So what we do is to help out should there be an incident at one of the nuclear power plants, but it's not just limited to that. We also see a lot of radiological material being transported on our highways and our railways. So something could happen anywhere. It's not just limited to the nuclear power plants. So we have folks who are trained to assist with setting up and assisting with operating population monitoring points. So it's very much like a shelter that we might set up after a hurricane. The big difference is that folks have to be screened to check them for radiation before they are allowed entry into the shelter. So not a lot of difference, just that our folks in REV-C have learned how to set up portal monitors, which are they're kind of like the things you walk through at the airport that detect metal, but portal monitors detect radiation. So it's a little bit different. And then we also learn how to use friskers to check for radiation and helping out with decontamination, or we usually just call it decon for short. So there's a lot of really great things that it's not just CERT volunteers. There's all kinds of people that are involved with REV-C. But having some CERT training is one of the criteria to be a member of REV-C. So the list is a little more extensive here for the training. I'm pretty sure all of you have ICS 100, 200, and 700 already. And then you either have to have IS 317, which is the introduction to CERT, or the full CERT class, CERT basic training. We call that REV-C's module 4, because 100, 200, and 300 would be modules 1 through 3. And then we have created these other additional modules. One of them is how to create your terms response profile, just like we were just talking about. And then you can see the other topics there. There's health physics basics, a general REP overview. REP stands for the Radiological Emergency Preparedness Program. Radiation detection equipment, reception center operations, and then module 10 is the only one that's done in person. And the reason you see little passwords at the end of each of these is because these are all, gosh, I'm getting all my acronyms mixed up. These are all WebEx recordings, and you would need to put those passwords in order to access the recording. And eventually these will be online classes through terms, so that we have an official record that you've taken them, and it'll be on your transcript. What we do right now, when people were taking these classes as we were presenting them in real time, we did those through terms, so it is on their passwords. But for right now, it's kind of the honor system. So if you say, hey, I just watched module 5 and module 6, we sort of trust you, which is not really official, but you know, I trust you guys. And then we can still add it to your terms transcript. Again, when I PDF these slides and share them with you all, you'll be able to click on these where they're underlined, and then you'll have the password right in front of you there, so you can watch those different modules. There is a registration form that you need to fill out if you would like to be a REV-C volunteer, and that link is there. You're always welcome to listen in on, we meet quarterly, the REV-C does. Our next meeting is August. I want to say the next meeting is in August. And then that will be virtual. And then after that, we're going to have an in-person meeting in November, somewhere in the Western branch, probably either Charlotte or Lincoln County. So somewhere out there. Anyway, so that's another option for y'all if you want to get involved. And then another thing I'm super excited about is Shelter Corps. There has been a gap for a long time in North Carolina of having enough folks to help staff shelters during and after disasters and emergencies. So we are starting this Shelter Corps in conjunction with North Carolina Emergency Management's Human Services Branch and the Department of Health and Human Services. So this is a joint venture between all of the groups. And we've done some training for this already. I know that a lot of you have taken the Shelter Fundamentals class, which is great. That is a required training in addition to our usual ones that we have up there. And then we have some optional training if you want to do more, but we're not requiring these for general membership on the team, which would be shelter food safety. So if you are especially interested in helping to serve meals, there is a food safety class to take. And then NCEM has the Functional Assessment Support Team, or the FAST team. If y'all are not familiar with that, these are a great group of people who go around to check out shelters and make sure that they are able to accommodate individuals with access and functional needs. So is the only door that go into the shelter has 3 steps going in, though that's not going to work, because if you have individuals who use wheelchairs who are trying to come into the shelter, that's going to make that very difficult for them. Are the doors wide enough for wheelchair access? Are the restrooms, will they accommodate individuals in wheelchairs? And it's not just wheelchair use, there's all kinds of access and functional needs, including language interpreters and sign language interpreters. So whatever it is that people might need, then the FAST team is on that. And of course, near and dear to my heart, we're also getting ready to gear up and release some new classes in animal sheltering. So if you want to be the person who helps out in the pet shelter, which ideally is located right next to or very, very close to the human shelter, because ideally we really want the owners to be involved in the care of their own pets. But we would need other people to help out in the animal shelters as well. So we're going to be putting out some information on how you can help if that's something that's of interest to you.
Hey, Samantha, we have a question
yes.
from Mike B in chat regarding the profile help.
Okay. I can't see my chat. I've got something weird going on with my computer. Can you read it to me?
So yes, Mike B asked, what is the address for the profile help again?
The address to work on your profile and terms?
I think that is what he means.
Yes, the email address that you can send for help completing the profile.
Oh, so you can, and again, I can't find my chat. So Sean, if you can just put cert@ncdps.gov in the chat, Sean and I are happy to help you. If it seems like something that needs more technical assistance, then you could send it to training, or is it NCEM training at, let me double verify that. I just have it saved, so I never know what address it is. NCEM training at NCDPS. And yes, the link is also attached to the slides. I just saw that question pop up. So when you get the PDF of the slides, you'll be able to click on it from there. Good questions. Thank you for that. Okay, so first of all, any questions on those 3 things? We talked about RevC and Shelter Corps and and the statewide deployment. Any questions on those?
Samantha, this is Tony. Can I ask you real quick? The ESF numbers for RevC is 8. The ESF for shelter is 6. And the ESF for CERT is 7 for the profile. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's correct. All right, so one of the first question that was on the questionnaire we sent out for this meeting was, what are your greatest challenges as a local CERT program? And so I've captured all the ones that were up when I checked it last, which I think was Friday. So if I've missed it, we'll have a chance for you to still talk more about this. But somebody said recruiting volunteers. So how do you recruit new volunteers for your CERT program? Does anybody have any great ideas before I chime in? All right. Hearing none, and I think I just turned my volume up so I'll be able to hear y'all better. There are lots and lots of different ways that you can recruit volunteers. So, let's see, I'm going to go through a few of these. Let's say if you live in a small town, well, relatively small town. Apex is almost 80,000 people now, so I guess it's a medium-sized town now. I don't know what the numbers are that make you small, medium, or large, but our town has a really great social media presence, and they are very supportive of the CERT program, both the fire department and the town itself. And so we get a lot of assistance from them when we're going to have a CERT basic training class. They'll put it out on the town website and on the fire department's website. So that's reaching a broader audience than if we just put it in. When I say website, what I mean is like Facebook page. That's what I meant to say. If we just put it on our own Facebook page, if you're not already following us, then you wouldn't necessarily see it, but we reach a lot of people by using the town and the fire department's Facebook pages and asking them to help with that. So you want to get out in front of as many people as possible. Speaking again for Apex, and y'all know that was my home team even before I had this job. So we've done a lot of experimenting there. One of the things that was the biggest thing for us in growing our membership was the use of Nextdoor. Is everybody familiar with the Nextdoor app? It's another social media platform. I would say kind of like Facebook, but it's not. I mean, it's different, but has some similarities. One of the biggest differences is, like, I have a personal Nextdoor account for where I live, and when I go on there, I see people who live immediately around me. Whereas with Facebook, I'm seeing people, all over the world. So, sorry, I'm trying to read chat and talk at the same time, and I shouldn't do that. You can, with the help of your town or your sponsoring agency, you can get an agency page on Nextdoor. So instead of only reaching the couple of neighborhoods around where I live, I'm now able to send something out on the Apex CERT Nextdoor page that reaches the entire population of Apex, or at least those people who belong to Nextdoor. So I think there's about 50,000 of the 80,000 people in Apex have Nextdoor. So I'm potentially reaching all of them. That's really, really valuable, and it's free, which is really great. So you do have to jump through a few hoops in order to get your page blessed as an agency page, but it is definitely worth it. And so we use that also if, so we're very near the Sharon Harris nuclear plant. If there's a scheduled siren test or something, we'll put that out on Nextdoor just to let people know, hey, if you hear the siren, then don't worry, this is a test, and let them know about that. Or if we have a weather alert, there's a tornado watch in the area, we'll put out stuff like that. We're just kind of being, spreading good information about emergency management related topics to the town. So that's really helpful. Other places to recruit volunteers. If your town has a little festival or something where, you have vendors setting up arts and crafts tables or something like that, set up your CERT table there. Maybe you can provide first aid for the event, but you can also hand out literature that you can get for free from FEMA and just about preparedness. And they have lots of different ones. So just a basic, how do you make an emergency kit, or how should senior citizens prepare, or pet owners, or what do you need to have for children, and all sorts of different topics. And as you're handing out literature and helping people learn more about being prepared, talk to them about your CERT program, tell them when your next meeting is, capture their email address if they're willing to share that, and, you know, just send them an email. It was really nice to meet you at the festival on Saturday. Here's when our next meeting is. We'd love for you to join us, and allow people to come to your meetings even before they have had CERT basic training, knowing that if you do something hands-on, they'll have to just observe because they haven't been through basic training yet. But that's a great way to get people in the door, and they kind of get a taste of your organization. And is this a group that I would want to hang out with? Does this sound like a good idea? Is it a good fit for me? So that's a really good way. And then you've also got other groups that are already kind of in place, like school groups or scout groups or church groups or synagogue or whatever house of worship groups that might be interested in training. So those are other kind of ready-made groups that you could tap into. Anybody have further questions or comments on recruiting volunteers?
Just a quick note, I'm Bud McClark down in Brunswick County, but we found that towns were quite cooperative in using their local assets like city email, stuff like that. And also the TV stations are really interested if you give them a heads up on what you're doing and how you're going to do it. We had 2 TV stations run spots on the local news. And then the good part is it stays live on their websites for like 6 weeks after that.
Yeah, and it's saved in perpetuity on the NC CERT Facebook page because I shared it. You sent it to me, Bud. So thank you for that. It was a great piece. Go to the NC CERT Facebook page and you can see the really wonderful piece that the local news did for the upcoming Brunswick County CERT. It was a very valuable piece, and that's super publicity for you to get for your local CERT program. I am just looking at the chat real quick that Rocio says something may not work great for multilingual individuals, and I'm not sure what would it work. Is that social media, or what is it that you feel it wouldn't work for?
Yes, I'm sorry, and I should have spelled it out.
Okay.
So, talking about the neighborhood, I love that application, but I know
Yeah.
a lot of multilingual citizens are not able to or don't have access to it, don't even know how it works or that it even exists.
Gotcha.
So, and with that, I actually had a question. Is there an opportunity for, and I'm not saying we are illiterate in social media, but
Right.
is there an opportunity for us to have some training on best practices? I love the fact that, you know, we are able to engage with local media and TV and radio stations. But again, I think we need the skills to be across the board.
Okay.
And would love to hear from what has been done and how it has worked so that our community can learn from it, and that we can also do the same things in our counties or local cities.
I think that's a great idea, and I know there are several day-long classes for public information officers or PIOs, and you probably wouldn't even need something that involved, but I wrote it down so that I can look around and see if there is maybe a class already out there, or if we could put something together, even, you know, for our next CERT forum where we could talk about that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so I think the PIO 101 and 102 would be great for anyone, especially when we're talking about recruiting people from the community. We want to tell them, you know, we give you the training and we give you the tools so that they're not afraid and turn away. I know that has been a challenge in recruiting and retaining.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a good point. JR, what are you talking about July 4th at Southport? Go?
No, what I was referring to is Southport is going to be putting on a 4th of July,
Yes.
and that would be an opportunity to talk to Brunswick CERT, referencing parking cars to whatever.
Good point. Thank you. NC CERT responder, I'm still looking at in the chat. Keith, yes, ICS 100, 200, and 700 are required to be an NC CERT responder. And I guess I left that off the slide. So thank you for noticing that, but I will update that. So yes, his question was, aren't 100, 200, and 700 required? Yes, they are required. And Andre, I see your question about a communications hub where members of the organization can share information or distribute announcements to volunteers. So there's a couple of things. One is you can post them to the NC CERT Facebook page, and I love to share things there. I've also been playing with, as we're doing events and so forth, I've been playing with an app called Slack. I'm writing that in the chat there. It's Slack. So you can use it on your desktop and on your mobile devices. It's something we use for communications for Apex CERT, and I've been using it a little bit at the state level. For example, I've had a few classes lately where I asked some of y'all, some trainers from across the state, to help out with teaching those classes, and I would create a channel on Slack for that class so that all the instructors involved with that class would have a place that they could all talk together, and they could share information and, you know, decide who was going to teach which units or whatever. And I see other people are commenting that they like Slack a lot too. I really like it. I hate the name. I wish they had a better name for it, but it's a really great app. It's easy to use. There is a free version and a paid version. Honestly, I feel like I can do everything in the free version. I think the biggest difference is if you have the paid version, you can save things for a long time. Whereas with the free version, I don't know if it saves it for 6 months or something, and then things kind of disappear. But for what I need it for at the state level, I'm using the free version, and I'm very happy with it. So I'm happy to create a Slack channel for all CERT volunteers. And you hear that, Sean? That means we have to copy and paste everybody's email addresses. But it's good. It's a good thing. Unless there's a way we can send it out and y'all can add yourselves. We'll look into that. So that we can have that as a means to communicate. I think that would be a really good idea. So writing that down too. This is why I have to have my notebook next to me while we do this talk. All right, I'm going to move to the next bullet because we still have a lot to cover and I'm going to run out of time. All right, here we go. What's the next one? Getting volunteers to sign up for events. All right, this is a very familiar one. Maybe you have 40 or 50 people on your overall roster, but when you have an event come up, is it the same 6 or 8 people that sign up for everything? Which, thank goodness we have those 6 or 8 people because they're the ones signing up for everything. But how do we get more people to help carry that load and help do some of that work? That's a challenge. That's a real challenge. That's definitely a challenge in Apex for our home team. And I think there's a few ways you could do it. I kind of like the idea of incentivizing it. So
she lives in
yeah. Sorry. Do you have a comment? Oh, sorry. So if you incentivize things, kind of like I've become extremely loyal to Circle K gas stations recently because they give me more off per gallon than Sheetz does, because I've reached that next tier of using them. And so I'm now getting 5 cents off per gallon at Circle K. So I'll drive past Sheetz to go to Circle K. So what could you do to make it worth your volunteers' while to volunteer at your 4th of July celebration? That it can't be anything that's going to cost you a lot of money, because none of us have a lot of money as CERT programs. But would it be, I don't know, they get a free t-shirt that costs money, but not a lot of money. Could it be, I don't know what it would be. It's kind of like you have to know the motivation of your audience and what it is they would want. They get to be volunteer of the month. That doesn't cost anything. I don't know. Find something that would, gift cards, yes. Something that would make them really want to come out and volunteer. So that's like doing it in a positive way. The negative way to do it is like, you're required to volunteer at X number of events. I don't like that so much, because then I get sponsors to pay for the incentives. Andre said that's a good idea. Badges, I love badges. So you can be a bronze volunteer, a silver volunteer, a gold level volunteer. So the more things you volunteer for in a year, And you could just print up certificates. These don't have to be fancy schmancy, right? But you could be, you know, I was a 2024 gold level volunteer for my CERT group. Bragging rights, even something like that can make a difference in trying to get people involved and get them to show up. Because I definitely see that. And it's not just a CERT thing, it's all volunteer groups. You might have a big long roster, but then you have like 6 or 8 people who do all of the work. Anybody else have great ideas for getting people to show up and help you with stuff? Sticker for your helmet. I like that. That's great. All right, if you guys come up with more ideas, throw them in the chat or email us and let us know some more good ideas. Program awareness, the threat of impending doom. I like it. Donations from local businesses. All of these things are great ideas. Keep them coming. Program awareness, I think, is a national issue for CERT. And I think, I don't know if y'all know, but I am a founding board member for the National CERT Association, and I'm the membership chair. And what amazes me continuously is that CERT started in 1985. That's a long time ago now. And there's still so many people across the country who have no idea what CERT is, never heard of it, no idea, no concept whatsoever. And I think we really need, and this is something that I think can and should come from the National Association is, you know, TV stations will do 30-second public service announcements. And I know FEMA's got them out there now. Have y'all seen their commercials about be prepared, make a plan, have a communications plan and all that? They're putting out these short PSA commercials. And I think we need one that introduces CERT. At the local level, you could do the same things we talked about earlier for recruiting volunteers. Excuse me, like using Nextdoor, social media. Oh, another thing I think Cary CERT did. So their town, if you live in the town of Cary, you get your water from them. So you get a water bill every month that you have to pay. There is a method by which when you get with the town, you can have a little piece of paper inserted. So when everybody gets their water bill, they had a little slip of paper in there that told them about CERT. What an awesome way to get into everybody's house. I mean, we all end up throwing a lot of that stuff away, but still, to get your water bill out of the envelope, you had to at least see this piece of paper that told you about the next CERT class or, you know, something about that. So whatever you can do to get your name out there in a positive way, let me just say that. Because when I talk about doing TV commercials and Bud had the TV station out there for Brunswick CERT, that's fantastic. Just remember that as the state CERT coordinator, I don't want to see y'all on the news because, you know, you were taking over an incident or something, but you wouldn't do that. It's all good. As a promotional tool, I think it's fantastic. Other ideas for program awareness to get CERT out there in front of people? We need to do a lot more of that for sure. Funding was the next challenge. That is a continual problem. My CERT budget at the state level is basically non-existent. I'm able to travel and teach my classes and stuff, but I used to be able to buy lunch for train the trainer classes and things like that. I can't even do that anymore. So it really annoys me that we have to send everybody out for lunch. All right, go get lunch, come back in an hour, because we don't even have the funds to just buy lunch. And I think it's a real pain in the neck. I really think it's a great idea for your CERT program to become a 501c3 nonprofit because, well, for several reasons, but one of the larger reasons is that opens the door for you to be able to apply for all kinds of grants. Because there are corporations who, for tax purposes, they need to give away money and get the tax write-offs from doing that. Plus, it's good PR and stuff for them, which is great. But they can only do that if you are a 501c3 so that their gift is tax deductible, because that's the whole reason they really need to give the gifts, is to get the tax savings. And there are a lot of them out there. If you search like Google disaster preparedness grants, there are a lot of things out there. There's grants.gov. You can find some of them there. That there's a lot of things on there that may not be applicable, but it's still a good place to search. I know that Walmart, Target, Lowe's, Home Depot, State Farm Insurance, Duke Energy right now has a grant out, the Duke Energy Foundation, and they're going to be giving out up to like $700,000, and an individual applicant, not an individual, but an organization can apply for up to $25,000. I did send an email out about that a week or two ago. So that's a great way to get some money. It takes time. You have to fill out applications. You have to do it right, because if you don't fill out those grant applications correctly, it just goes in the trash and they move on to the next one. It would be amazing if everybody had somebody on their CERT program that was really good at writing grants. That's a great skill to have, and it does take time and attention to detail and all that kind of stuff. So there are grants out there. Someone asked, Rocio, can CERT programs get nonprofit grant writing trainings through the state and federal programs? Sometimes there are classes, as Andrew said, there are classes on terms. Yeah, so sometimes they don't apply. That's true. Okay, the grants link, this link is grants.gov. These are federal grants, so that's one place you can search. And then I mentioned a bunch of different companies. Almost any company you think of. Firehouse Subs is another great one. Also locally, there's a lot of restaurants. I mean, I don't know if these exist in every town. I know like Jersey Mike's is everywhere and Panera Bread is everywhere. We have a local Ruckus Pizza. I don't know how widespread that is. City Barbecue. Many of these restaurants do a community give back night or something, and you don't get huge amounts of money from this, but every little bit helps. So they'll do something like, on next Tuesday night, everybody who comes in between the hours of 6 and 7, we're going to donate 10% of our proceeds to your group. And again, you have to be that 501c3 in order for them to do that. So look around your neighborhood. A lot of these places have little pamphlets out on their counters. So pay attention, when you go to get lunch, and see if the place you're getting your lunch wants to give you something in return. So they're out there. What's the next thing? Equipment. So that would go along with the funding. So if you can get the funding to buy the equipment, that's probably the best way to do it. Some of you may have sponsoring agencies who are willing and able to provide funding and or equipment. So you might want to ask them. Do keep in mind that being a sponsoring agency doesn't automatically mean that they are required to sponsor you monetarily, but it never hurts to ask. So try them. I just think equipment is tied very closely to funding. Encouraging new members to sign up for basic training. So you cannot be a member of a CERT program unless you have completed CERT basic training. And you can come to meetings and, kind of hear what's going on and learn stuff. But if you want to be a full-fledged member of the team and you want to be called out for stuff and work the events and all that stuff, you have to take CERT basic training. It's very, well, it's basic. It's CERT basic training and it's basic. So I think you just have to tell them this is a requirement. It's not debatable. And you're going to have to put your foot down on that one. And I know who asked that. And I was just looking at the list and I don't see that person here because I know this person's been having challenges with that. So I'll have to have an offline conversation, but that's cool. Convincing the sponsoring agency that CERT is a response asset. That can be challenging. So the big fear is all about liability and protections, legal protections, because everybody's afraid of getting sued. So if I am your sponsoring agency, I'm terrified that you're going to go out there and you're going to hurt somebody, or you're going to get hurt and it's going to come back on me and it's going to end up costing my town or my county a whole bunch of money and we're going to get sued. And that's That's where people get nervous about sponsoring CERT organizations. It really is a great idea, sponsoring agency. I'll get to that in a second, Andre. It really is a great idea to sit down with your liaison to the sponsoring agency and talk with them. Just say, look, we need to have a very frank talk about what do you want from this CERT program? What is it that you want us to do? I mean, the truth is that the R in CERT stands for response. So we are a response asset in whatever way your sponsoring agency chooses to use you. And you need to sit down and have that talk with them and make them aware of exactly what the training is. Sometimes the folks from the sponsoring agency don't even understand the breadth and scope of the CERT training. So you may need to just show them, invite them to a class, invite them to a meeting, let them see how well-rounded we are. And then legally, in terms of you hurting someone else or damaging property, we are generally covered by the Good Samaritan Act, which is the Volunteer Protection Act of 1997. And it's basically known as the Good Samaritan Law. If you want to look that up, there is a North Carolina statute. So it's a federal act, and then each state has a law based upon that act that protects you from litigation. So if I do CPR on someone and I crack their ribs, they can't come back and sue me for cracking their ribs because I saved their life by doing CPR. There is, thank you, Andrew, also Chapter 166A is part of the North Carolina General Statute that provides protection specifically for emergency workers. It does outline all kinds of paid professionals, but it does say volunteers in emergency response. So we're covered that way. The thing that's a little tougher to cover is, what if you ask me to go out and respond to an incident and I get hurt? Who's going to take care of me and my medical expenses? So there are probably lots of different ways to do that. Three main kind of simpler ways to handle that. One is, ideally, I would love it if the, hush, dog's crying, if the sponsoring agency would cover you with workers' comp. So if you are under a town or a county, they would treat the volunteers the same way they do their employees. So just like if you get hurt at work as an employee, you have workers' compensation. I would love to see volunteers covered that way too. That's sort of hit or miss on whether or not jurisdictions are willing and able to do that. A second choice would be for the CERT program to purchase their own workers' compensation, which does cost money. It's not horribly expensive, but there is a cost. I'm going to put an acronym in the chat here. VFIS stands for the Volunteer Fire Insurance Service, and I think their website is vfisnc.org, but just if you Google it, you'll find it. They do write insurance policies for CERT programs and for like volunteer fire departments and things like that. That's their business. That's what they do. So look into that. As I said, there is a cost for that, but it's not super duper expensive. And then the third choice, which nobody loves, but you can ask your volunteers to sign a waiver that basically says, I understand that this could be dangerous and I could get hurt, and I promise not to sue. And then you kind of have to put out your town, the fire department, the county, blah, 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 anybody that might be implicated there. And we've all heard stories about waivers hardly being worth the money that, or the paper that they're printed on, and being challenged in court and things like that. So not my favorite choice, but still a choice. To answer Andre's question about the sponsoring agency, every CERT program has to have a sponsoring agency. So I can't just go out and start Samantha's CERT team, like, hey, I'm Samantha, this is my team. Ideally, your sponsoring agency is within the public safety realm. So police, fire, EMS, emergency management. For example, in Apex, Cary, Morrisville, and Raleigh, all four of those major teams in Wake County are all affiliated with their respective fire departments. That's how CERT got started in the first place, out in Los Angeles with the LAFD, and that remains the most popular sponsoring agency for CERT programs. But that's not the only way to do it. You might be directly under your county's emergency management office. You could be under police or EMS, just as well as fire. there are other options. It's really preferred that it is something within public safety, although we do have teams that are under a church or a school or a homeowners association. So there are other options as well. And I'm really getting short on time, so I gotta keep moving. Let's see, maintaining your group's enthusiasm. Yes, George, there is. And I have a great, I'm sorry, if you're not reading the chat, George asked if there was a set of requirements for the sponsoring agency as to what they must do or provide to the CERT. It's pretty vague because at the national level, FEMA doesn't want to put a whole lot of things out there as must-dos and must-haves and so forth. And so they'll say most of that is to be determined at the local level. But I've recently found, I don't know if she's on the call, a great publication called, what's it called? I had it right in front of me. It's a CERT program guide, I think is what it's called. And from FEMA, and it, I think I like it better than my own standard operating guidelines that I've had out there for a couple of years. So I'm looking at sort of merging those two documents together, but it very clearly sets those requirements out. I'm happy to share that with the group. Maintaining group enthusiasm. To me, the biggest part of that is taking time to recognize people and thank them for their time, because I gotta stop reading. Thank them for their time. Remember that everybody's time is valuable. In fact, according to the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, until July 1st, when it'll go up again, a volunteer hour right now has a monetary value of $29.95, which is pretty darn valuable. So, you know, imagine these folks are actually working for you, but even though they're volunteers, but just take the time to say thank you and let them know that what they do matters. And there's no such thing as a very small job. Like, every job is important, and you just have to keep reiterating to them how important they are to the team. I'm not sure what happened, but no, I don't want to leave the meeting. Why am I sharing? Oh, I'm not sure what's happening. Okay. Maintaining group enthusiasm. Okay, we did that. Need for a local sponsor. Again, this goes back to having that sponsoring agency. How do you find one? And
Hey, Sam.
yeah.
It looks like we're looking at Josiah's screen. We're no longer seeing your screen.
Let's see if I can get back to mine.
There we go. We're back.
Okay, I'm not sure how that happened. That's bizarre. So yes, you do have to have a local sponsor. And I think I've kind of beat that one to death. Clarification of roles of CERT members. So did I put a note on here for that myself? I thought I did. Yeah, so somebody said how actively they can participate in deployments, member engagement and communications, apathetic sponsoring agency, requests for assistance from other entities that turn out to be poorly organized, member disillusionment. So how can they actively participate in deployments? I think it's really important to let people know right up front, like have a handbook or something in writing that shows you the different job descriptions that you may be called upon to do as a CERT volunteer. And if I need you to come out and work first aid at the festival this weekend, what does that mean? And do you have to be an EMT level, or is CERT basic training enough, you know, to get you through doing first aid at this event? So the more stuff you can have in writing, and of course you can never come up with everything because there'll always be something you never thought of before, but have as much written as you possibly can. Luz wants to know, how long can a CERT group operate without formalizing? Really, you're not a recognized CERT group until you are formalized. So I guess the answer is not at all. So I kind of know what you're asking about, and it's a little bit different situation, but you need to get onto the FEMA site to register the team as an official team. All right, I'm going to go a little bit faster because I've already kept you guys for an hour. Let me just see. We'll put all of these up at once. Oops, go back. All right, so I asked what would help on the questionnaire. What could we do to help you? Recruitment and training programs. I think, and I'm not tooting my horn because it's not my curriculum, it's a FEMA class, but one of my favorite classes that I teach is the CERT program manager class. And you don't have to be a program manager to take the class. The only prerequisite is that you have had CERT basic training. It's coming up in July. Let me tell you the dates. It's going to be in Raleigh, but we are offering training reimbursements for that one, travel reimbursements. It is July 13th and 14th. In July, I only do this class once a year, just because we only have so many program managers. We are always adding new teams, and then we do see turnover sometimes where a team gets a new program manager. But even if you're not the program manager for your team, but you're maybe really interested in training, or you're looking at recruitment of how to get new volunteers, it's a really great class. And we cover all of these kinds of nuts and bolts ideas of how to run a CERT program. And we talk much more in depth about several of the topics we've already talked about here this evening. Money, we talked about a little bit already. CERT education, I'm not exactly sure what the person was looking for, but there are, thanks, Vinny, see you later. There are lots of classes, so we do more basic training classes than other types, and they're all listed on terms all the time. I try to do at least 3 train the trainer classes every year, so I do at least one in the Eastern, Central, and Western branches, so that I hope that I have one every place so that it won't be too hard for you all to travel. In addition to those 3 train the trainers, we will also do them at request as long as we have at least 10 people in the class. So we do have forms out there where you can request a class, and you can ask for one of those. Again, as long as we have 10 people and we can find a time that works for everybody, we will do more train the trainers. And then the CERT program manager, we usually do once a year. And there are lots of other classes that we offer as well. So if you go onto our website, which I've got at the end of the presentation here, you can see some of the other options of classes that you can ask for. And if there's something that you want to learn, or a class you would like to have for your local CERT program and you haven't found it anywhere, hit us up. Send me and Sean an email and tell us what it is that you're looking for, and we'll do our darndest to try to find that for you. If it's not something that we can teach, it's not something that we know enough about to teach the class, we will reach out and find somebody who can teach that for you, if at all possible. I can't promise 100% that I can get you whatever class you want, but I will really, really try very hard to do that for you. I love this next bullet. What would help? An overwhelming disaster that exceeds local capabilities. Sad but true. I mean, that's what, knock on wood, we've had a great couple of years of not having anything super major happen, and we everybody gets a little bit complacent, like, yeah, well, CERT is cute, but I don't know that we really need them. And then something will happen where our local response agencies just can't handle it, and they're thinking, gosh, where are those CERT volunteers when you need them? So yes, that would help. I can't make that happen. If somebody wants to have their local community safety director contact the CERT program, send them my way. I'll talk to them, or if you want them to talk to your CERT program, reach out to them and initiate a meeting. If you want me to talk to them, we'll make it happen. And then communications, I'm not sure if they meant inter-team communications or whatever. So we could talk radios, or we could talk apps like Slack, but communications is always a very important topic. And then other training opportunities that you all were looking for. I'll try and get all of these up here. And here I thought I didn't have enough stuff, and I'm already going an hour. Practice drills. Love practice drills. I love full-scale exercises where you get some talented person like that Jay Royster guy to come and do moulage and make everybody look really good with makeup and fake injuries and everything. That's really fun. So you can put those on yourself for your local CERT program. If you need help with planning that, we're happy to help. When you do a full skill exercise at the end of your basic training class, invite your current members to come and be your patients for that. So the newbies have to figure out how to help them. If you have another CERT program nearby, invite them to come too. Maybe they want to play and take part in your exercise. Ask your local emergency management office, even if they're not your sponsoring organization, they oftentimes have drills and exercises going on, and they need people to be victims for those. So there are lots of opportunities out there. Sometimes you have to root around for them a little bit. CERT conference. Before COVID, I did a CERT conference every spring, and just haven't gotten my momentum back to do it again. But yes, we need to do it at the state level. There is a national CERT conference coming up in July, the weekend after, or the week after the CERT program manager class in Raleigh. And this year, the national CERT conference is in Washington, D.C., which is the closest that it's ever been to us. So this would be a really handy time to go. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that at the end. CPR training, I think everybody should be able to have good access to that. Check with your local community college. I know here in Wake County, Wake Tech offers CPR just about every Saturday. And as part of a CERT program, if you are under a public safety agency, you should be able to take that as a fee exempt class. So that's just something for you to look into. Or ask a local EMT or somebody who is a heart instructor to come and do the CERT basic training for your class, you know, for your group as your monthly training one time. Inland search and rescue, there are SAR classes offered all the time that you can take. Now, if you want to do the full on, what in North Carolina is called the 8100 class, it's the land search field team member class. That's a good 6-day class over 2 weekends, and you really need to be prepared for that. If you want to get ready for that, Jay Royster has come up with a class called SAR for CERT, which is really a very basic introduction to search and rescue for CERT volunteers. And we haven't done one. Jay, when's the last time we did a SAR for CERT? It's been a while. But we, you know, we'll travel. If you've got donuts, we'll try and
Well, I
come
need
and
iced
do a
tea
class
also.
for you. What's that?
I need some iced tea also, but it was
And tea.
pre-COVID.
Yeah. Have we not done a class since COVID? Surely we have.
Maybe one, but that's, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, that's fun. It's a 6-hour class instead of a 6-day class, half classroom and half out in the field. And we're happy to bring that to you all. First aid, again, look for your local resources for that. Emergency communications, there is a CERT module from FEMA that's called emergency communications. And all of these supplemental trainings used to be up on FEMA's website on the CERT page, but they took them all down. I think they're looking to revamp them because they are kind of older at this point. But somebody who's very smart and on this call downloaded all of them on her computer before they got taken. So I have them. She has them. And if you would like those PowerPoints, I'm happy to share those with you. Also check with your local ham radio clubs. I think ham and CERT are really great crossovers and can do a lot together. There's also one for traffic control in those CERT supplemental trainings. Repeat the basic skills all the time would be awesome. Andre, if you'll email me, because I won't remember just from seeing it in the chat. Anybody who wants one of those supplemental trainings, email me and I will share those with you. How to manage volunteers is covered in the CERT program manager class. That's another good reason to come. And people skills, whew, that would take a whole day in and of itself. That's definitely, you got to have people skills. Andrew, I'm not good with numbers. What's 244? I don't remember courses by their numbers. Managing volunteers. There you go. IS 244 is a class, one of those free classes you can take from FEMA on managing volunteers. Other questions that were on the questionnaire. how do you establish a local CERT program? Send me an email. I have a whole document that explains how to do that. The short answer is you do need to identify a sponsoring organization and kind of have an idea of who, you know, if you've got some interested folks that are going to want to be part of your CERT program, that's the very first thing that you need to get started. Can we have more train the trainer classes? Yes. Yes, you can. I'm going to show you the website in a second for our CERT page. And there's a form there where you can request classes. And one of the classes you can request is Train the Trainer. Protects 2024. I don't think so. I have run out of bandwidth for 2024. How about in 25, we will do our level best to do a CERT conference and a CERTEX. Yeah, we'll do it. No, we're going to do it. It'll be great. How do you build and foster good relationships with local agencies? Pound the pavement. You got to get out there and get your sneakers on the pavement and meet these folks face to face. We do talk about this a little bit in the program manager as well, but you know, emails are super for an introduction. Sean, can you take Andre's question there, if you don't mind? Like I might email somebody and introduce myself and then say, you know, could we set up a time to meet? And I want to tell them what CERT is all about and how our organizations can help each other and so forth. But you have to get out there and actually meet them. Try and train with them. If you're with the fire department or the county emergency manager or whatever, find out when they're doing some sort of a training or a drill or an exercise. Even if you can just go and observe, or even if you, you'll, I don't know, move the bottled water around, whatever it is, so that you can help. You just be there and just show them what an asset a CERT volunteer can be. So actions speak louder than words. So I liked this one. I know it's kind of long, but what I'm going to pull out of this, and I don't know who wrote it, but someone says they suggest you start every meeting with a 10-minute tailgate safety or first aid session. So that's great. Like you're going to your just your regular monthly meeting, which if y'all haven't heard already, I'm a huge fan of CERT programs meeting every month so that y'all bond together as a team. You're learning the same things together. Maybe you're reviewing something you learned in basic training, or bringing in new skills like CPR or some other topic that you might want to do. And I love this. So whoever wrote this, they started every meeting with a 10-minute session. Like, hey, let's talk real quick about bee stings and how would you recognize anaphylaxis? 10 minutes, just talk about that before you get into your main topic for the night. Or a local situational review, like we're kind of coming into a heat wave right now. We're in a drought. So what would that mean if, so we've had, I say we, I wasn't there. There was a large emergency management presence at the US Open golf tournament in Pinehurst over the last week. It is really, really hot and humid, and a lot of people coming to that, whether they're the players or the spectators, are not accustomed to our climate, and being out there on the golf course all day long, you can get dehydrated, you can be overcome with the heat. And I think the last executive summary that I saw that was put out by North Carolina Emergency Management said that between Monday and Sunday, this past week, they had over 1,500 patient contacts just during the US Open. So it's just an interesting thing to me. And there were like 15 people who were transported to the ambulance, and one was in critical condition out of all those patients. No, there were not any CERT volunteers at the tournament. Sad to say. So anyway, so talk about your local situations at your meetings to say, hey, it's hurricane season. Is everybody aware, by the way, that there's a storm? Our first tropical storm of the season has formed in the Gulf of Mexico. It doesn't have a name yet, but it's probably going to be our first named storm. All right, upcoming classes and events. We have the CERT program manager class, and then we'll have a forum like this. We did one just for trainers like a month or so ago for people who are already CERT trainers. We're going to have a Program Managers Forum. So specifically for those of you who are managing programs and you want to talk about specific issues, we're going to do that the day after we finish the Program Manager class. So that'll be cool. And then the National CERT Conference, if you go, I'm going to put this here, nationalcert.org is where you can join the organization if you want to, and you can find all the information about registering for the conference. The RevC, the next meeting for the Radiological Emergency Volunteer Corps is August 26th, and that will be online. We have a great, and I know Luz, are you still here? We have a great interest in Spanish speaking CERT classes that, and Luz has been a huge proponent of that. I see Lulu is on here, Sharon, I see a bunch of you guys on here who've been really involved. Jose, if you're still here, I think, or Josias, there's Josias. So you guys have been on the call and I appreciate you being here. They've done a super job with taking the CERT training to the Spanish speaking population across North Carolina, to the point that we're actually going to do a train the trainer class in Spanish in December. So I'm super excited about that. We've never yet done that in North Carolina, so this will be the first time for that. But we do have a basic training coming up in Wilmington in October. The entire class is done in Spanish by native Spanish speakers. So it's not like me trying to stumble my way, trying to speak Spanish, teaching the class. These are people who their Spanish is their first language, and they are phenomenal CERT volunteers. They know this information. They're great trainers. In fact, Sharon just graduated from Train the Trainer yesterday, so we know that she's awesome. Then we'll have another Train the Trainer the next weekend in English in Raleigh, then the RevC annual meeting in Charlotte in November, and then that Train the Trainer in Spanish. And then our next CERT forum, just like this, will be December. I was doing these, I think it was like during COVID, I did them a lot more often. I'm going to try and do this twice a year now, I think, unless, you know, you guys get so sad because you haven't heard from me, then we'll try and put something together. Okay, lots going on, my goodness. Here are these websites. And again, when I send out these slides, you'll be able to click these. It's really long. If you just remember readync.gov, and then up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little menu that says Get Involved. And as that drops down, you can see both CERT and RevC on that drop-down menu. So you can see links to all of the forms, like if you want to request a class and things like that. So those are good websites for you to have. And I'm going to stop talking because, goodness gracious, I've kept y'all an hour and 15 minutes. I meant to keep you for 1 hour, but I'm happy to stay on as long as you guys want to stay. If you have questions, now is the time. I am ready to answer them. Or if you don't, then we can all go watch TV instead. All right. Well, I just want to thank you all for taking the time to join me tonight. It's been awesome. And thanks for all the thanks. This is awesome. Thank you, guys. And remember that Sean and I are always here. If you have questions. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Be sure and email us with your questions. Let us know what you need. You guys take care. Appreciate you.
Samantha.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. I'm gonna stop the recording. I gotta find it now.
Hi, Samantha.
Yes. Hey,
Yeah,
Abby,
so
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great.
So, do you remember the picture of those bags I sent to you the other day? That has some set tools. I guess some years ago when FSU CERT was working, I guess they gave those bags to the CERT members. So I have about 20 of those bags in my
Yeah.
school, and they were, I mean, the police department wanted me to I mean, either use it for other purposes, or
Right.
first to check with you if they came from FEMA, I mean, or if they came from the government, or if we purchased them ourselves.
They came probably when there was some money at one time that was a grant, and they were giving out these $2,500 grants to different organizations, and I'm pretty sure that y'all probably bought them with that grant money, so they belong to the school.
Oh,
So you
okay.
can do whatever you want with them. You can keep them, you can give them away, you can, I guess you could sell them, I don't know, but I'm not sure about the legality of that. But they're
I-
yours. You guys bought them.
Oh, okay, okay. I wanted to be sure, just so that I won't. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
What's that? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I said I wanted to be sure just so that I wouldn't use it inappropriately,
Yeah.
and rather than dispose it, we could actually get more because I was told to use it for another purpose and I wasn't going to use it for that purpose at all. I was going to use it just for CERT, I'm guessing this season, this hurricane season, we might need to call up
Right.
more CERT members,
Don't the
Uh,
do the backpacks say CERT on them?
the bag says CERT on them, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want to use them for any other purpose other
Yeah.
than CERT.
That makes sense to me. I mean, I would say that they should probably be used for CERT.
Anyways, I'll send you an email soon,
Okay.
maybe during the week, and then we can take it.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.